Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people.
Thank you. Okay, additions to this.
I always say it. Somebody else we could take turns. We should rotate.
No, it's in our policy book. It's the deputy mayor's responsibility.
That's what I figured.
So we need to add a couple of things to the agenda. So we have the contract preparation note from Mark Blauer for the CDBG opportunity. And then we also have, well, Ari, I actually, this is not the resolution that I thought it was going to be. So I don't want to add this one.
Okay.
If that's okay with you. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's really up to you guys.
Let's just put, let's add.
I would say if Bill was here to speak to it, he and Alana worked on it together. So.
Did they? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
then, okay, so I didn't know that. Because we had a meeting back before you returned from vacation, and I was under the impression that Alana was working on some volunteer firefighter resolution recognizing a few items. So this isn't that. This is something else, which may be fine, but I think we're still waiting on that resolution. Oh, here's, well, let's just put it on anyways. And then we have this Hasbrook Park Playground project transfer. So motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any announcements?
I was thinking that although it's on our interwebs, just to remind our community that we have that awesome COVID response summary that Alex and KT have been maintaining that's full of information pertaining to need within our community, as well as what to do if you suspect you have COVID. And just that Project Resilience is an amazing, what's the word I'm looking for? Organization, help for our community. And if anyone's in need of food, they could contact Project Resilience. It's a long URL, but you could just search Project Resilience Ulster County and it'll come up. And also if you wanted to donate money towards purchasing that food for those in need, you can go to that link as well. And that New Paltz School District also has the great program of giving, if you have a child in the school system and you are finding yourself on hard times, you can apply to receive lunch and breakfast. And you can contact the school at 845-256-4020. And there's a Google Doc online as well within our COVID response summary. So I just wanted to put that out there on the interwebs and our meeting.
Thanks, Michelle.
Any other announcements? Well, no one's here from the public, but we can offer the public the opportunity to make a public comment now. Okay, motion to approve the 4/8/2020 meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Climate discussion item. So Bill, you had an idea about recognizing Earth Day?
Well, it's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Climate's on our agenda on a regular basis, weekly basis, or bi-weekly basis. I just thought maybe that we should make us acknowledgement of that. It's the 50th anniversary of the day. And during this crisis, we've noticed, or scientists have noticed, a decrease in air pollution, less smoggy days, clearer atmospheres. So I don't know if anybody had to offer along those lines, or any kind of thought about that.
I was thinking about that similarly. I'm glad you brought it up, Bill. Just the idea that in a way I was like, yeah, Earth Day is kind of getting shafted today because people aren't paying attention. But as I said to Michelle earlier, Mother Earth's getting a break right now. And we're doing things without a lot of things that we thought we needed. And it's the perfect opportunity to reassess what we really need.
Yes, in a way
and those
forward.
Impacts on the planet.
Right, in a way forward. So there's been, I happened to read the newspaper a few times, a couple of articles today, and it just strikes me as sort of a surprise in that the positive components of this are emerging now for the environment.
Yeah, I think it's making many of us take a look at exactly what KT was saying, and the governor has said, just ways that do we really need to attend that meeting? Do we really need to drive our car to this place? Can this be conducted online? So things like that, I think, hopeful that moving forward, it will be some positive changes for our Earth. I am missing our annual Earth Day Fair, though, which is a wonderful yearly happening in our community. But there's always next year to have an even greater one. There's always such a wealth of information there with different people just sharing ideas of climate action activities that we can all.
Does anyone have a sense of how long we've had that Earth Day Fair at Huguenot Street? Because I would agree, it seems like a very, it's like a really nice community event. And I've been there many times when the weather's terrible and there's still plenty of people there.
Yeah,
has it been going on?
Last year it was freezing. I think it actually snowed or rained a little bit last year, but it was still wonderful. I don't know how long it has been. Jim Dowd would know.
Definitely been as long as because like I started the Nyperg Earth Day Festival that was in Hasbrook Park for a couple of years, and for a while it was like these two different things. It was like rocking out and like Hasbrook Park, and then like go and like chill with like everybody else at like the tabling event. And then finally kind of they all combined. So that was spring 2004. And I know it was like a thing that year, so at least that long. One cool thing though, because Earth Day is like my favorite holiday besides Halloween. And I was like really kind of starting to feel like that sadness that I think hit the rest of the world like sooner than it hit me. But then I realized I got to attend, and I'm getting to attend way more Earth Day events this year than I did for the 40th anniversary, when like I went all out. Like I joined a whole bus full of New Paltz people. We all went to DC for the 40th and like saw a bunch of like my favorite bands. Passion Pit played, and that was really awesome. And I thought that would never be outdone. But this year it's like a 3-day like virtual like festival that I'm gonna head to after we're done with our meeting. And I don't even have to leave my room for that. On top of like Nyperg had a really great rally last night with some New Paltz folks speaking at it. And Senator Liz Kruger was the keynote. Today, our Senator Jen Metzger had like a great Zoom Earth Day event where she got like really into the weeds about all the awesome like environmental legislation that like, she's been working on, and we've had as victories like in spite of this pandemic, and like a path moving forward. And I know our Climate Action Coalition has like a pretty sweet lineup of virtual climate justice related events, going forward. There's a book club tomorrow night that Greta the Greta book is the book. Today there is like a live stream of Repair Cafe, which I can't wait to check out after the fact. And there's more stuff on the Facebook page.
Yeah, on that tip, Janelle Piotr, for their climate action next week, they have a kid-friendly one to read. It's like a book club with one of Greta's books, and I'll send it around. She was looking for more kids interested in attending the virtual discussion of the book club on this specific book. But
Hey, Alex, can you go through the list of legislation that was discussed in Senator Metzger's call today and identify any that we haven't voiced support for yet, or any that we need to reiterate support, so we can do a resolution for a
Right now?
agenda? No.
Okay, I'm like, it's a little tough on the spot, but yeah, I already started kind of making notes like that. Yeah.
I think you're awesome, but I wouldn't.
Come on.
Just write it down.
I'm like, all right, fine.
I know you want to get it over with, so you don't have to write it down. So happy Earth Day, Mother Earth.
Oh, I thought you were gonna curse.
No. I could. That would be bad, though.
Okay, so next we have a discussion of the draft law regarding EV charging at multifamily properties. Alex, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, you know, the premise of this is based on the bicycle parking like minimum requirement part of the law. Basically, it's the same language, but I put in you know, EV or electric vehicle charging infrastructure language. And the whole idea is just climate justice, thinking about how so many of the state legislatures bills that I just kind of mentioned are all about electric vehicles. That's really one of the only ways like the state is going to meet the goals that were set out in the CLCPA, which is vital for our survival as humans and the planet and whatnot. But basically, we need to get off of fossil fuels, right? So it's no secret that fossil fuels, like in car culture and whatnot, tend to dominate a lot of our lives, even our like walkable little green village. But what's interesting is, you know, who's being left out of all these movements to green energy and to electric vehicles. In our community, it's renters. So I did some like, you know, research and figured out a way to basically expand that access to safe and adequate EV charging infrastructure to the majority of our households in our community, and in a way that like mirrors, you know, language that we have in our code already, like regarding other types of parking, in a way that does not add any parking. It just helps transition the parking that is available over the course of time to be parking that is available for folks to be able to charge their electric vehicles at home. Stats show that people are more likely to make that kind of investment into an EV if they are able to charge at home. And now we're starting to see like in the market, like even like more, you know, used EVs like available and whatnot. And yet that's something that about 73% of households in our village, you know, wouldn't be able to do if they were going to rely on charging at home. So that's basically what this is about.
Why
Has
would,
Will seen this
why
yet?
would, what were you gonna say, KT?
I just had a process question. Like, where are we at? I forgot. Has Will seen this yet?
He has.
Okay.
So why would we limit it to just rental properties?
Well, I was imagining, basically because I mirrored that bicycle parking required language.
Right, but we
You
have
know.
parking requirements if you build a single family home.
So you want to
If
expand
off-
it?
Well, I'm just brainstorming aloud.
Okay.
I feel like we run into problems sometimes when we come up with rules that only apply to a certain group. Right? Like you could make the
Mhm.
case that like any new construction, if you have off-street parking, there should be EV charging made available.
And that would be like ideal, definitely. I just found, at least in terms of taking like a stab at like writing legislation, it's usually good to find something that already exists. No law like this exists in the country. It's more so like policies, like, or ideas, or like weird initiatives. Like there's no law that actually works to expand the justice component of this, you know, making this EV infrastructure, EV charging infrastructure available to a class and generation that is not homeowners. So just, you know, like reflecting language that we already have in our code made sense, because like I figured that's how to get this in, but then B, like really thinking about the intent of, you know, the climate justice part, and figuring out how to make that move for folks that don't get to make those kinds of decisions, like about, you know.
But if you frame it this way, couldn't you end up with instances where a developer constructs a house with X number of bedrooms, so it's not considered a multifamily, it's still considered a single family or a two family, and then you don't have any EV infrastructure, which was your original goal?
Another way, and thanks Tim for even thinking of it, because I hadn't considered it. There's no reason why we couldn't keep the language in there, making it really strong that it is a rental, that it applies to rentals. But just to kind of think about it, like, isn't there a cogent argument that, well, everybody in this should apply to?
Yeah, I think potentially there is. I also struggle a little bit with like the technology piece, in that like, are we being flexible enough? Like the way it's currently written, you're requiring one EV charging station per required space. Like in 5 years from now, every car might be able to charge within 30 minutes. Like, do you need that many stations? Or do you just have one that's where people go and charge at?
Right. Well, okay, so where was that part?
Because there's also an enormous, like Ari and I looked very closely and banged our heads against the wall for a long time just to figure out how to use a charge ready grant through NYSERDA. And you know, the way things work now, it's like incredibly expensive
Right.
to build that infrastructure, even like bare bones infrastructure.
Definitely. And that's why I included that like rollout note, which is, yeah. So I don't think the way I wrote this actually does make it so every single parking spot at a residential rental building would have to become an EV charging spot. It's literally like the same thing like that we see in 21247 Schedule E. Like a minimum of one of the required parking spots must be EV charging. And then for all other uses, one must be provided for every 5 required automobile. So like, I feel like that doesn't make it like an across the board thing.
Alex,
It
tell me
makes
what
it,
to search on so I can see that. Because maybe it just needs to be clearer. What do I search on to find where you are?
like it's 198-36 or proposed 198-36 electric vehicle charging station parking spaces required. It is, yeah, oh, hey, anonymous wombat.
Yeah, I'm on my other laptop over here.
And there's an anonymous dinosaur in there too.
Oh, look at them.
Yeah, so I didn't write it intending to make it so every single spot was that, because I immediately was trying to think of every argument that we would hear, and it's like, you know, that affordability or like trying to make it work, or you know, even figuring out, you know, I really thought really hard about every apartment I've lived in the village, and how even like having adequate lighting for in some of them, like where, you know, you'd park a car and then walk to your door, was even sometimes troubling because of like how far things are weirdly situated and whatnot. I don't know. So like really tried to make it so like it's not, it wouldn't like hinder people, you know, like I think like it seems doable. Like the only thing that like, you know, I was really hoping to get some input on from Will, and Will get this input, sure, at some point. He did just respond and said he gave you some input, Tim, was like the rollout part is like the one thing I was trying to like really think about, like how, you know, I could imagine, especially in this time, you know, people being like, what? I can't afford anything, and just like shooting down the idea without even like hearing it and like acknowledging like the purpose and intent of it, and seeing that like it's actually quite doable. You know, but like that one part, like I wrote like based on other like state laws where I've seen like a good rollout, you know, how that kind of thing is done, but that was the only part I like had some questions about, like the perfection of.
Okay, maybe this is the language I got tripped up on. And 198.37G is in George. And maybe this just requires a little tweaking. It says where automobile parking spaces are required, each one of those spaces must be EV charging.
Oh yeah, you know, actually good catch, because that is something that was from, yeah, that was
that's why I thought it read that you were requiring it for every parking space.
Yeah, no, that was like from a different idea.
Okay.
So that just, you did the other thing and forgot to delete.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see what you're saying above.
I've done that.
I'm making a comment on it. I think this should be deleted, just so that's noted, because I think that's what I had meant. Because I had been, you know, when I first like, you know, pitched this idea to Tim at like 1 a.m. like a few months ago, I like, it was like, I don't know if you guys have ever read those like choose your own adventure novels like R.L. Stine used to do, but it kind of did that in a couple different directions. And so one direction that I thought it out through would have been like everybody has EV, you know, EV charging capability within 5 years, no matter what, you know, like that's all you have. But then I like really thought about just, you know, rules in terms of like, you got to stick with like, in order for something to really, in order for me to like be successful, like pitching this, you know, really sticking with like language that has already worked and been utilized. And it seems like, you know, the planning board is like, well, accustomed to like that bicycle parking section, and like actually refers to it quite often and whatnot. So just really focusing on that language, and then again the goal. So I think this part should be actually deleted, but I'll leave it as a comment for now.
Yeah.
So Alex, is there a way of figuring out like how much this costs? Guesstimate? I'm
So,
just thinking about fairness in terms of staging this section about it being more expansive as time goes on. So I don't know. I have no idea the magnitude of the cost.
so I think it, like, from what I was like looking up, I think it's really hard to tell based on, like, I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of different factors, like in a lot of these different places. So I don't know. And this might be something where like Ari like might be able to like say something because she's been doing like a lot of research on that other project. But from everything I was looking at, it really, like, we're talking about like distance from like energy sources and stuff. So it really does depend. And that's why I wanted to put like the 5-year rollout where there be like a minimum accepted, you know, as long as you make it like make ready, you know, then you're good if you can't go all the way for the first 5 years, but like that spot will be expected to be like a full charging spot in 5 years. So that's kind of like why I put that in there. Because I couldn't find an answer about the cost that actually made sense for like, again, like just kind of thinking about every place I've lived.
I mean, the cost is really,
Sorry. Are there any NYSERDA programs for this or tax credit?
yeah, we've tried to deal with the NYSERDA one. It's been a real bear. But what's strange about this is it's definitely a moving target with the costs.
Yeah.
You know, you could put EV charging at your house for like very inexpensively. You get the outlet and an electrician. It's like $100.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I have at my house. But then that doesn't work because really anyone could roll up to my house and plug their car in if they have the right extension. But if it's a shared facility, you know, you should be paying for what you use. Right, that's the difference. So if you have to use like a charge point or equivalent, you know, piece of hardware, like those things are designed for like you pay for what you use.
And that's also because, you know, that gets into New York State public utility law. That's an area that I didn't touch, you know, in this, because it's different for each rental agreement too, how that would be parsed out. You know, sometimes electric is included, you know, in your rent. Sometimes it's not. And then like in some places people have like designated parking spots. Like this is where, you know, apartment A parks, this is where apartment B parks, you know, and you would be able to parse it out that way. In a lot of places, it's just like all 5 apartments, like good luck, you know, whatever the case may be. It's like really different in every scenario. In the cases where it's like, you know, a rental where there are not assigned parking spots, actually, I think that issue is dealt with, Tim, like by the public utility law, like in terms of it being a common area that a landlord has to, you know, just like the front door light, you know, they're technically supposed to keep that going if it's a shared space between everybody. But then, so that's something they'd have to think about too. You know, it would almost be more beneficial for a big landlord to just go ahead and make every single parking space they have EV make ready, so that a tenant could spend that just, you know, $100 to get themselves hooked up. You know, and
yeah, you could do that. That would work, what you described, if every spot just had that plain vanilla plug. Yeah,
exactly. If you just made it possible, then like that would like have it covered. But yeah, like there's like so many different utilities scenarios in our little village.
Right. My understanding is that you can't resell power right now. Like the landlord couldn't receive a premium for it. And that's the same thing that the gas stations are struggling with right now. Until the legislation change, they can't sell power at a premium.
Right. So yeah, I stayed away from that part of it.
Hey,
which I think
Alex.
also makes it like so it can age well.
Alex, a couple of quick questions. Should there be some inclusion about liability insurance and a landlord carrying that in the case something goes awry? And also, has our building department taken a look at this?
Oh, this includes so much help from Corey. Like, yeah, seriously, most badass building department this in the world, I would say. I don't think that's like an exaggeration. Like, literally, he includes so many comments, and like that's all in here. I accepted every single one of them.
Sure. So on the liability issue, was that discussed with Will?
No, so Will discussed it with Tim and did not give me any feedback yet. But from, having like worked with Pulp, and, utility law and like tenant law and stuff like that, I didn't feel like there was any reason to go in there, and into that realm, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. Tim, did Will say anything to you about insurance?
No,
I don't think we're allowed
he
to,
did
because
not.
we're talking about utility, again, like.
The only other question that Will had is, and I don't know that he was sure of the answer, but he was wondering, does this go in zoning or should it go in parking?
So that was like actually a question, like Corey had it first. But the thing is, like, putting this in the same spot as like the bicycle parking, like the way I wrote it, to literally just follow it in the code would actually make sense, in terms of how the bicycle parking law is used, having them right next to each other and they're referencing each other, makes sense. But that's why I did add like little reference to like, the zoning parts that might be relevant too. Definitely like grappled with it quite a bit, but.
So the way the numbers work, if it's a smaller multifamily, it has to have at least one EV spot. And then if it's a larger one, then for every 5 required spots, you need 1 EV spot.
Yeah, it's, in the, I guess I should just pull it up. In 21247 Schedule E, the same chart applies here.
Right. So it doesn't, like, if it's, that's why I purposely didn't, I was purposely saying smaller, meaning like if it only requires Y number of spots, it still needs at least 1 EV spot. And then if it's like a giant multifamily apartment complex, like, I'm making this up, it could require 200 parking spots, but then it has to have, I guess in that case, it would be 40 of those spots would have to be EV.
Yeah, it's the same. One for every 5. Yeah, whatever the math is. I'll trust your math, Tim. But yeah, basically that's why I included that reference right here where it says 198-36A. It references the chart in 212-487 Schedule E.
Yeah. The other thing that when I spoke with Will, he said that he wanted to like chew on this a bit more before we went ahead with a public hearing. So maybe we can get together on a call with him and go over that. Like what else is he looking for in this proposed draft?
Cool. Yeah, I think, are we even allowed to like do public hearings right now? So I was kind of assuming.
Not at all, or I
don't even know.
I think there's a rule book, but
yeah, I thought there was a rule book.
We are allowed to do public hearings as
Okay.
long as we do them the way we're holding our meetings.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured this probably is gonna just take a little bit longer than I would have liked. Because of
But even
everything.
with or without that consideration, I think he wanted to go over this draft more.
Okay.
So we'll just keep moving along. So good.
Great start, Alex. Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to noodle on the whole, is it just for rental units or should we just do it for everybody thing? I have to really.
Yeah, I think we should think more on that too.
I agree.
So yeah, definitely. In terms of that, I think we'd have to think about like then where it would belong, because
Yeah, no, I heard you about all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't want to really lose that. I just want to make doing everybody else additive to that, if that makes sense. I don't know what
Right,
that would like.
then you would put it in zoning if you wanted to make sure
Yeah.
it goes in.
Right.
But then you lose, well, I guess you could still refer to that other parking metric that Alex was using, like for a smaller apartment complex versus a giant one. Okay, so circle back with Will and see what other input he has. And then we
Sounds
can
good.
add stuff. Okay, so we have an award we need to assign to Amity Construction of Poughkeepsie. They were the low bid. We had several outfits bid on this repair of sewer mains related to the CDBG award. Their low bid was for $664,999. I motion that we award the bid to Amity Construction.
Second.
Someone want to second it?
I feel like I heard a couple seconds and then I also said second.
Oh, really? I didn't hear any. All in favor? Any opposed? Right, I was on a call today, or at some point, all the days blend together, but someone was saying it's really important with video that we do in favor as well as opposed. So no one opposed, so just so that it's really clear that we have that record as well. Maybe it was on the supervisor's call we did that. And then the next item is we have a resolution regarding water and sewer payments due on June 30th. So this is a motion that would waive any late fees for payments not paid on time. Those would be due on the 30th. But this would be different from what we did last time in that we could actually waive fees all the way through April 30th of 2021. Is that what we want to do here? I was guessing that was the direction that we wanted to head in, just to provide flexibility. Last time we couldn't provide that flexibility because we had to receive the money before the 1920 fiscal year ended. And then if someone does not pay by April 30th of 2021, then their outstanding bill would be added to their tax bill. Is everyone following the dates and the logic with this resolution compared to what we did last time?
Yep.
So is that what we want to do? We want to waive the late fee, and this, it seems like, I forget the exact dollar amount, but Nancy shared it with me. It ends up being a fairly significant amount of money that we would be waiving, but that we would also be providing to our community as they manage, the uncertainty of the pandemic.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a really good example of us, like we've been talking about how like we're looking into everything that we could possibly do, and this is a good example of doing everything that we possibly could do. You know, I think this could offer a great amount of relief to some folks who need it.
Right, like we have zero authority as far as not collecting taxes,
Right.
even our own village property taxes, unless Albany does something different. But this is an example of something that we do have the authority to change. That, you know, should soften, you know, some of the financial uncertainties that people are facing right now. So that's my motion. Does someone want to second this resolution?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I motion that we move bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And KT, do you want to have Bill sign this package of bills and claims?
No, I need to email back. I think I need to do other ones too, or maybe.
Yeah, I think Bill did a chunk of them at like 2 meetings ago, and then the last meeting still
Yeah,
needed
no,
to be
I can do them. I was just, they're not something that can just be left somewhere. So I was trying to figure out a way that they could just hand them to me.
hand them to you at Village Hall?
Or, yeah,
Okay.
and I'll come by tomorrow.
I mean, I can make a point to have them and make sure that I'm at Village Hall if you want. Like, you want to do something like early afternoon?
Yeah, I'll text you tomorrow. We'll
Okay.
figure it out. I gotta be out in about midday, so.
Okay. And then the next item was something that we added to this agenda tonight. We have the proposal from Mark Blauer to prepare the CDBG application for this year, and basically we would be resubmitting the package that we put together that we were not awarded in December of 2019. And Mark's fee to do this work would be $3,750. I motion that we go ahead and retain Mark.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next item is we have this resolution regarding volunteer firefighter benefits, and this is specific to the COVID crisis.
And you also have to set a public hearing for the
Oh, I see that. Sorry. When can we set that public hearing, Ari?
May 13th at 7 p.m.
Okay, I motion that we set the public hearing on May 13th, 7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
And then, so Bill, this is a new proposed legislation.
Yes, I spoke with Senator Metzger about this a couple of weeks ago, and she's co-sponsor on this bill that would afford the same benefits and protections, I suppose, for volunteer firefighters and EMS workers during this crisis. This is language I put together for a letter I wrote to a number of newspapers in the area, and we've Alana and Ari have drafted into a resolution form.
Okay, so there was another memorializing resolution that we were looking to put together before Ari returned from vacation. We still need to do that. That was the one where it was like, you know, there was draft legislation regarding volunteer firefighters and you know, like state property tax. And then there was another one supporting a task force for Albany to take a closer look at how we try to find more volunteers. I felt like we identified 2 or 3 initiatives that we thought were good ideas. So that's another, I think, pack of resolutions that are all firefighter related that I would like to see us do, that we still need to do, correct?
Yeah, I'll follow up on those, Tim.
Okay. Because that was in, those were, we went over those 3 at a meeting, and then they must have just slipped through the cracks. I don't think, Bill, you were supposed to do anything, but let's just circle back and see where those are.
Sure. I recall the conversations, but it's a little blurry since then. What happened?
Okay.
I have to say, I totally support this, but the first bit is a little confusing to me because it's like, we should just say we support it. I don't know. It just feels like we're like, we did this, now we're doing this. It's the same thing. I got all confused. I thought you were referencing a different bill. Or maybe just say has already right here. Oh, sorry. I like this action, how I can talk to you over here and you can see over here when I'm typing. Right?
Yeah, that's a good edit.
I think that, yeah, I don't need to overdo it.
Right.
That helps me tremendously.
Sure.
I also like looking at everybody's faces. Like I keep thinking about how we used to be in a row and you had to look at people, and it's like, I like looking at your faces. I feel like it's a better dialogue.
Yeah, it makes me think
And
of
that's coming from
composition
someone
theory.
that has to do this all day long. I'm like sick of staring at myself. But just a little sidebar.
Okay, so are we voting on this?
We could do that. I'm down with that.
I guess I'm just confused. Like, I don't remember the March 11th where we verbally expressed support. I don't remember
Is
that.
March 11th or April 11th? Maybe that's what threw me off too. That date's a while ago.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Right.
It came after.
There's more than that.
Right.
When was our last meeting? We talked about it at our last
April
meeting
8th.
and we expressed support because you brought it up, right? This is what this is in reference to?
April 8th was our meeting. Yeah.
Oh, your very last in-person meeting. Yeah, Alana was working on it. But because I was not there, I don't know what you guys actually talked about.
That's what threw me off, is that we went through that list of proposed legislation that we wanted to support, and we wanted 3 resolutions written on those 3 things. So that's what I felt we were referring to with this.
Yeah.
And this is talking about COVID, like March 11th, like, Trump had already fixed COVID in March 11th.
That's right. So
The kids were still in school on March 11th.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe those 2 tasks just got overlapped, but if we just want to do this one tonight, we could just do this one tonight with this wording. Or did we not talk about this at our last meeting? Because now I'm starting to feel crazy. Because I know you had, maybe it was in one of our calls you mentioned it. So now I don't know. Which the safe bet would be to just take out the reference because it's not really necessary anyway. There you go. Fixed.
Well, okay. Yeah, let's do this.
Right on.
Yeah, this is great. I'm all in. Thank you for doing this.
And we'll keep on our to-do to look back at those other bills and
Yep.
do one for them as well. No,
Sure.
future.
I'm actually reading this Senate bill to make sure I understand it.
I also
So this all goes into it references the purpose of this bill is to extend existing benefits for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers to include exposure to COVID-19 during a state of emergency. So we've had lots of discussion about whether to declare a state of emergency, or are we covered because
We're covered because of the state. That's not local. I mean, for COVID, we're covered under the state. It's kind of. I don't know why the law needs to say that.
Bill, you said you
Yes,
spoke with,
theoretically, the state could go off being in a state of emergency and then say the Bronx goes into a state of emergency, then it would apply in the Bronx in a COVID relapse in that situation.
Actually, I was just thinking, I was going to say the same thing, but more so the more realistic example would be the state comes off of a state of emergency, so downstate operations can start to get back to normal where, peak hits Buffalo. And then they want to declare, an emergency or something like that. I think that's what it was intended to cover.
Yeah, I don't think we really know what that scenario is going to be, right?
Right, for sure. It could go both ways, yeah. But I'm pretty sure, because I've read through this a couple times, that was like my take of why that was included.
in this particular Senate bill?
Mm-hmm.
So, we had a draft state of emergency declaration for the village, and it had an end date in it. And we never did anything with it because, the more we talked about it, we felt we were covered by Albany's state of emergency.
Mhm.
And then the other challenge with once you declare a state of emergency, you have to do all this other paperwork to, it's not just like you've declared it, it triggers a bunch of other things that you then need to do. But then the town of New Paltz declared a state of emergency. Does theirs have an end date, or does it automatically continue unless they undeclare it?
Let's see. I would assume you have to extend it if there is an end.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at their website.
No, I thought you were looking at our COVID document. I thought it might be in there.
Their state of emergency? No, I don't think so.
It's also my understanding, reading through the Senate bill, a lot of the language that feels just so weird is weird because we don't really, nobody knows a lot of these different factors, how long like COVID-19 could impact, you know what I mean, could impact these scenarios and so on.
There's no end date on the towns. It says this order shall take effect as of 7:30 PM on March 17th, 2020, and remain in effect for 5 days unless 5 days. Maybe they're not in one anymore. It says remain in effect for 5 days unless rescinded earlier. Uh-oh. I guess I'll ask Neil about that. Am I reading that right? It only was in effect for, it said it may be renewed in 5-day increments. Maybe they're doing that. I don't know. That seems like a pain though. Every 5 days?
Yeah, it seems like a lot.
Maybe they did something after this.
Well, I do know, like, or isn't the state in a state of emergency until September 7th?
Yeah, but there's weird reasons. It's a whole weird list of, going back to what Tim just said about like, you have to do all this other stuff. The only reason you do all that other stuff is because of the compelling reasons to do the state of emergency. And one of the biggest ones is purchasing. Like it frees up your ability to spend money on the stuff that you need fast. So purchasing is like, it doesn't sound like, oh, hey, do a state of emergency because you need to buy stuff. But that actually is one of the primary triggers. And because towns operate and have town, abide by town rule book, town law, and villages, because we have the mayor and how that is very different from what a supervisor is, they end up having to do a state of emergency in this scenario, and we don't.
Word.
So what are we doing with this resolution?
I think we can do it because it's singularly about this one law now. You said you read the bill. Did you have any other questions or concerns about the bill? That seemed pretty straightforward to me to expand it to COVID at this moment in time.
Yeah, it seems like a good thing to do.
I'm in support.
Okay. Next item that we added tonight is I motion that we transfer money from the Parkland Fund to the general fund in the amount of $22,000.
Don't we need to vote on that?
Yeah, that's my motion.
No, the thing before, we didn't do the motion on the,
Oh, we did not?
no. So Bill, you should move it.
I move the resolution regarding Senate Bill S841A.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item is a motion to transfer $22,000 from the Parkland Fund to the general fund to offset costs associated with the DPW payroll during the playground build. That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You want to do planning board report?
Yeah, we're meeting tomorrow. We had no meeting yesterday.
On a Thursday?
Yeah.
Wild. CBA?
We had a meeting it was a training. Ashley, our lawyer, led it and John Litton and Noah and I attended. Ashley went through, the codes and the factors. It's a great refresher because it's a lot to take in. But one of the questions, and I can't remember, a while back, pre-COVID days, we had something in one of our meetings where we were re-looking at the code for the planning board. Is this correct? And in my head, because I remember we had a lengthy discussion about the meaning of family that was written in the code. But can somebody refresh my memory where that is?
12, what are the other digits, Bill?
There should be no definition of family, except as it relates to if you're referring to a single family or double family, just in the most technical way possible. Like it should not imply that a family is this kind of person or that kind of person, or this number of people or that number of people. It's really should be used as almost just like a technical term.
And were there amendments made to the code, and did they get finalized?
No, they did not get finalized. There was a definition for a family that I personally do not think would work. I think we still need to go back and change them. Like the previous planning board wanted to, have this rigid definition of family, and I'm just terribly uncomfortable with what they came up with.
Yep. Yeah, communities are switching to household.
Yeah, that would be better.
Yeah.
So the problem is census still uses family, and the household is not a family.
The census uses household.
No, but they have a definition of something that is a family.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, who knows what the hell they're going to do next version. But.
Oh, in the housing survey in off years. Right.
But
that is really.
How does that impact our code though?
Well, there is an existing definition. Isn't there one in there, Tim?
Yeah, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
And then the previous planning board tried to adjust it, but I don't think it did what they were hoping it would do.
But that
so ZBA was asking about this in general or in the context of a particular decision?
No, we were just sort of talking about things, and it got brought up, and I remembered that it was part of our conversations, but I didn't know where we were at with any changes within the code for that.
This has been a thing. I can't remember a mayor that didn't have an opinion on this. And
yeah, I think it often gets gummed up because people.
Time in New Paltz.
Yeah, I think it gets gummed up because sometimes people try to use it as a tool to critique like college rentals, and they're like, how could it be a family? They're not related. And it's just like, okay, we understand the point you're making. It's not applicable. Like I could care less who's related to who.
Yeah. I agree.
I would like to revisit this because I feel like the census actually started updating in the ACS, like the not decennial survey that they do that actually determines like these housing questions. Like that's where I get like the 73% of households or renters fact from. I think they updated some of the language since 2019, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, household is any unit, and then family gets into this issue of related or not. And you can crunch most anything based on those definitions. I'm not saying we have to do what census is doing because their delay on our social constructions of things are quite delayed. But yeah, I don't want to use the terminology ever. I just want household. The inherent bias is apparent.
I think that's all we have, but I did want to go to executive session. I actually tried to send you guys each a Google Meet if we could try that. This way the 5 of us could go into exec. I think I sent it to,
Oh, yeah.
what?
Yeah, you sent it to my phone.
I was like, what is this?
Was that what you sent? Oh,
I thought you were sending for this.
Do you think you'll take action?
I'm on a motion that we go into executive session regarding personnel.
so are we adjourning?
We can,
What do we do with the Zoom over here?
Yeah, we can adjourn, can't we?
No.
Mute?
we can adjourn and then say that we're not taking any action.
Yeah, I mean, that's technical. I don't care. It's too hard. Let's just,
We're adjourning the Zoom meeting and then having the
yeah,
Google Hangouts.
that's what we're doing. We're just Xing out Zoom. We're not adjourning the meeting.
Right.
And we're going into execs for the
And
Okay.
you'll send me what time you get out for the minutes.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
who moved and all that fun stuff.
Exactly.
So we motion to go into exec regarding personnel at 8:11 PM. And
Second.
then later we'll tell you when we leave.
Sounds
Right.
good.
Okay.
All right, I gotta get this from my phone to my laptop.
Right.
And we're going into execs for the
And
following.
you'll send me what time you get out for the minutes.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
who moved and all that fun stuff.
Exactly.
So we motion to go into exec regarding personnel at 8:11 PM.
Second.
And then later we'll tell you when we leave.
Sounds
Right.
good.
Okay.
All right, I gotta get this from my phone to my laptop.
I think I sent it by, oh, does everyone have something?
What time you get out for the minutes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Moved and all that fun stuff.
Exactly.
So we motion to go into exec regarding personnel at 8:11